Good morning, guys, girls. All right, got a little quick trip today. I found a Edelbrock 1405 carburetor on classifieds, and for $100. And I know people's gonna say you don't want to run Edelbrock carburetor, blah blah blah. I have experience with that particular carburetor, and that seems to be a pretty well versatile carburetor. It's just a mechanical secondaries, manual choke, and it was designed for the Torque 2 application. I have an 85 GT right now. It's pretty much original, other than Edelbrock RPM intake and that 1405. It has 373 gears in it, full length exhaust. I think they are BBK chrome full length headers. 2.5-inch Flowmaster exhaust. They didn't put the tips on it, they put the turn downs on it. All right, that being said, that was a good running car. That car ran well. But for drivability, I decided to take that 1405 off and put the 1406 on, which is more the performer application. Electric choke. It killed that car. It slowed it down so much. It was just like you had the brakes were dragging. So there is a difference. Now, the one difference that I did receive is it didn't hurt me near as bad to drive that thing to Moorhead whenever I was going to school, which is about an hour away. It saved me a lot of money in gas. But that 1405 is back on it right now. I no longer was driving that to Moorhead and decided to put it back the way it was. And it's like turning on a light switch. So I am going to go today. Guy's got this carburetor for $100. Looks brand new. He's actually got two, a 750 and a 600. I'm going after both of them. My dad is interested in a 750. I have no need for something like that. If I have a need for a carburetor that size, I'm definitely going to go with a Holly. But, just for, it's $100. It cost me almost that to rebuild a Holly. It cost you $50 and half a day of your life to rebuild a Holly. And it can get a lot more than that. It can cost you actually close to $250 depending on what you got to do to a Holly. That being said, I'm going to pull this carburetor off, and it's I'll find out the specs on it. It's a 600 or a 650 Holly single line. It's the ones that you don't have to adjust the float level on. That's what it said. I don't know. I did not adjust it, and it works fine. Let me see. I'm going to go get this carburetor. We're going to put in. Now, I've got to redo the fuel line, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Okay. Now, y'all remember a previous video, I run the fuel line on the outside of the frame rail to get away from that header tube back there, because, the steel line came in, then the rubber line came, and it was almost pinched between that header and that frame rail. Well, I'm going to add my fuel filter down here. And I added one right here. Before, the only fuel filter that was on this car was on the 2-barrel carburetor, and it was like a strainer type fuel filter built on the carburetor. That was it. There's nothing else on this car. I'm going to make a new steel line from the fuel pump, and I'm going to go around, and I'm going to meet that Edelbrock, because the pickup's in the back. And I guess while I'm at it, I might make one for a dual line Holly, because I do have a 670 Street Avenger, but I would like to see how it compares to this 1405. Guys, I really think you all are going to think differently about a 1405 after we put on this car, or I may just realize that I'm crazy, which it's whatever. I'm going to get this carburetor off, and it's about time to leave to go get that carburetor anyway. And I'm gonna get it back home, take a look at it, clean it. Hopefully, I mean, there's honestly, if you've ever messed with an Edelbrock, there's almost nothing to it. Couple jets, couple metering rods, couple, you know, metering rod springs. There's just not that much to them. They work great out of the box. That being said, let me get started on this. I have some more 5/16 fuel line. Thank goodness I bought extra. And I'm gonna go ahead and get me a new one rebent. I have another Edelbrock, another 1405 over I bought for parts. And I'll probably sit down here to mock up the fuel line. Now, I like it because it has the 90 on it that drops the fuel line down. I may remove it from that intake, that carburetor, and put on this new carburetor I'm gonna go get. Because, you know, it has the nipple that sticks out on the side, and it, you know, it's gonna put my fuel line right into my heater core things. Which, if you're wondering why this is like this, I don't have the stud on the intake facing up on it. So I'm gonna do something. I gotta figure out a better way to fasten that down. And looking at it, while we're talking about it, I may make a tab that pulls it over and we'll bolt it right to that carburetor. I might do that. I've got to take all this back off. I just want to make sure the heat and everything worked and there was no leaks. So far, so good. I have to take it back off, getting ready to put a set of E7 heads on this thing. And hopefully the Edelbrock picks up some. I know the E7 heads will. And I am still working on these heads right here. I still got a long way to go. But once they're done, I'm gonna have them surfaced, and I think everything should be good. But I still got a lot of sanding, a lot of polishing to do. You know, this one I've started on it. This one's pretty much done. I know I'm gonna get some slack over taking the valve guide bosses down. There's still an awful lot of meat in there to keep that valve straight. If these heads work out as great as I think they do, or I'm sorry, if these heads work out as good as I would hope they do, I may have them put bronze valve guides in it, and I may actually keep these heads because I'm gonna have a ton of hours in these heads. I mean, I've got a lot of work in these heads. So, that being said, there's a lot to come down the pike for this little car. I've had a lot of fun with it, and I hope you all enjoy watching. Recap, new fuel line, fuel filter relocation, all that. I am considering heavily on getting another spacer for this. It has a 1-inch spacer on the carb right now. I'm really thinking about getting an 1.5 or a 2, and I may look for one today. So let me get moving so I can get so I can get down the road because it's a 2-hour drive. I'll be back shortly. All right, we're back. Got the carburetor. Very happy with it. I'm gonna get rolling on this. I did order a 2-inch spacer for this carburetor. This one's got a 1-inch on it. And then we'll actually see if there's a difference between a 1 and a 2. I did want to get the carburetor up a little bit more. Just because the original intake is so low. It's got a 1-inch spacer on it now. We're going to put a 2 on it. Yeah, check out this carburetor. Pretty happy with it. I mean, for the money, you can't beat it. Everything looks like it works pretty good. It came with an extra rod, but I figured out it came with an extra rod here. It's shorter, I guess, to bring on the gas a little sooner if you pull the choke. And I may need to put that on. I don't know. We will see. It does not have a forward kickdown on it, which I was talking to my dad today. Automatic's getting a little bit tired. I was driving it home and it slipped in 3rd gear when it shifted from 2nd to 3rd. I got this laying out here. I want to show you this. You see that metal fuel filter? Well, there's a reason that's on there. Now, I like KOI. Good bunch of guys out there. And I'm going to tell you what. Go to Advanced Auto Parts and say, I need a fuel filter 5/16 in and out. What's your year and make and model? I mean, I ask you that if you try to buy floor mats. I'm like, are you serious? So I go tell them part number for a frame. I said, here's a part. I Google it right there. And say, here's a part number for a frame. The girl says, is that your part number? I'm like, no, it's frames. I can't cross that over. So I go to KOI. I buy this clear, see-through fuel filter. Works good, looks good, like it and everything. Until I come out here and moved the car, and my intake was completely full of gas. Now, luckily, I was just moving it out of the shop to the front of the building one day, and it was leaking where it was seamed together. So I went to Advanced again. But luckily, there's a gentleman down there that's actually very knowledgeable. And he can handle the fact of being inconvenienced to actually go look for something. I just told him I want a steel fuel filter, about 8 cube, which that right there is about what you call an 8 cube fuel filter. And I'm going basically off a refrigerant term there as far as like a cubic inch for like a dryer. So anyway, that's about an 8 cubic inch volume fuel filter there. 5/16 in and out. Guy goes, grabs me one. I save that box. That way when I go back down there and I get somebody else that's not as ambitious, I can just handle my box and say I need another one of these fuel filters. So as you notice, I haven't really done anything because I just left and went and got that carburetor. Took a little bit longer to get it than I anticipated. I'm actually about 2 hours late getting back. But I'm going to get started on this thing, or at least make an attempt to get a plan for putting it on anyway. But I think this will go fairly smooth. Worst comes to worst, I can just run a hose over to it. But I'm not a fan of doing stuff like that. But I might just do that because it's so temporary. Everything on this car is temporary. I've got probably 2 or 3 more intakes I'm going to try. We're going to have at least 2 or 3 sets of heads on this thing. 2 more camshafts I know of for a fact. I just inquired about an E303. Of course, it would show up after I just got my F-cam. But, you know, we'll see what the old boy wants for it. And but let me get started. I just wanted to show you, but guys, please, I'm not knocking KOI, but stay away from this fuel filter right here. You know, it come apart, and if I hadn't seen it, as much gas was in it, it could have caught my engine on fire. Could have burnt the car down. I'm gonna get started. Here we go. All right, so this will not work. Took it off real quick. As you can see, it's hitting. Now look, I even put a 1/2 inch spacer under it. No bueno. No bueno. Now I can take these crossover tubes off and put just rubber hose on it, but I don't want to do that. So, I think I have a visitor. Oh my God. What are you doing, buddy? What are you doing, Zeus? My buddy. Yep, it's come to say hi. I'm gonna throw the holly on it, back on it. I did order a 2 inch spacer. I don't know when it'll be here. Middle of the week. But this is you know, this is life, you know. This is how it happens. No big deal. I am anxious to try this out though. I was in such a hurry to try to get home and get this lined out, and here we are. All right, YouTube, we'll see you next weekend. As you can see in this video, it didn't work out the way I wanted it to. And it's basically, I did not prep or look at everything I need to look at to do this job completely. Part of learning, you know, I knew better. I just jumped right on it, you know, and, you know, when you go from one carburetor style to a completely different one, there's things involved. So keep that in mind whenever you go do something like this. Same with intakes. I promise you, I'm not going to stick a Victor Jr. on this thing and it's going to be exactly the same as, you know, everything's going to be right. My heat crossover tubes are going to be different. I feel that, honestly, this is going to have a torque or two or one of them Chinese Victor Jr.'s on it at the end of its life, or at the end of this, the build. And I will probably end up having to build a set of crossover tubes using the factory ones. I'll have to modify them because I've got to have heat. Got to have heat because I'm going to drive this car. But these are just things you got to run into, you know. That being said, I had to order a few things and expecting them in for too long, and you will see a video on the finished product. Like and subscribe, guys. Thank you very much. Comment if you got something to say. Have a good one.